Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, that was a way to recover from a legendary crash out from me last game as the Calgary Flames defeat the Anaheim Ducks, no longer mighty, by a final score of 4-1. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Game Over Calgary. My name's Conrad Krausert, and that's one way to stay in the race. Wasn't the best we've ever seen the Anaheim Mighty Ducks play, but you know, a win is a win for your Calgary Flames. And saw the return of somebody who has not played the greatest this year. and got a couple comments in chat already. Thanks for joining in. And maybe I was too harsh on the Flames, but maybe the Flames needed that kick in the pants to get back into this one. But we will talk through this game and more as the Flames stay in the race, maybe not to catch up to St. Louis, but they got someone else in their sights. But before we go any further, it's time to shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun. Your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing unique style broadcasting, commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a fun atmosphere that is sure to drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Hout, Daphne Malboeuf, and Kevin Larmé when they return soon for your fill on news from around the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, or head over to the website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Shout out to the Denim Man, Matt C., Phobos, and Christine Merrill for tuning in tonight. And I'm sure we'll see some more of our friends join in chat as everyone's kind of talking about how the Blues may never lose again, but quietly the Flames, after a game that saw me nearly flame out live on air. Well, I did flame out live on air. But the Flames are quietly still creeping, still looking for the Minnesota Wild to trip and fall. And hey, they've only gotten 2 points out of the last 2 games, going overtime in the both of them. But before we look around the NHL, let's break down the game that was. And the Flames actually started the game on time. I know, it's rare, especially as early as the Flames did. Nazem Kadri, only 16 seconds in, shows you why Radko Gudas is the slowest foot speed defender in the NHL, in my estimation, as Sharangovich just chipped it around Gudas, and Gudas looked like he was skating in quicksand or cement. Maybe he's looking for Jimmy Hoffa, but couldn't get back to cover Naz, and Naz streaks in and made no mistake with the shot. And if you're the Flames, it's probably who you want, because Kadri has been hotter than hot over the last few weeks. So, Flames go up 1-0 early on. However, they don't hold it for very long, as 8:01 Owen Zellweger, one of the youngsters for this team, takes advantage of a Kadri boards pass to no one that I think all Flames fans have seen one too many times. And he just finds the back door. Ryan Strome puts it right on his tape, and the other assist goes to Troy Terry. And I don't know, I'm like trying to think back, because I was kind of half watching at this point, because I'm like, you know what, the Flames are doing well. I can take my mind off, go check Blue Sky for a moment. And yeah, it was just Joel Hanley got kind of a little lost in the sauce, and Uyghur was in down low with Huberdeau. So it was Matt Coronado who had to kind of cover that first pass, and Uyghur tried to race his way past and just beats Hanley on the near post. But you know what? Flames kind of dominated. There was a little bit of a streak in the middle there where the Ducks were actually expected to win. But the Flames battled back in the second period, and it started with Blake Coleman on the short-handed effort. He breaks up the pass and just breaks his way down and Gibson gets a piece, but not all of it. Trickles over the goal line. Blake Coleman unassisted. Shorty. And the Flames go up 2-1. You know what? The commentators throughout the whole game were commenting on how strong the Flames have been shorthanded. And boy, oh boy, I certainly remember when me and Matt were doing a lot of these shows together, and every game it seemed like we were just absolutely losing our minds at how bad we were shorthanded. But since the infamous 3 power play goal game in Toronto, Flames have only allowed 1 power play goal against. So you have to give big props to those guys who are out there killing penalties. And I tore into Kevin Rooney a bit last night. And you know what? The Flames, Rooney answered, the fourth line answered, and the shorthanded unit has been really good. So tells you what I know about hockey. There's a reason I have a microphone next to my face. I'm not out there playing the game. Well, you've seen my body type. Like, let's be honest, I'd skate worse than Radko Gudas, who I just criticized. And then we go in, and I thought, you know what, I'd be happy with that. Going in 2-1, Flames kind of get that shorty to break the deadlock. But then the fourth line starts to go to work. They start cycling. You see Kevin Rooney enters the zone after the Ducks were finally able to get it out. He just kind of throws it behind the net. Lombo gets it off the end boards. Klapka tries a wraparound, but who does the rebound bounce to? The Italian man, Kevin Rooney. The Runes report is he has 5 goals on the year. Assist to Klapka. And Lomberg loved to see the fourth line chipping in after I tore a strip out of them on Tuesday. I will eat crow. It was a good game for that line. Then goes into the third. The Flames up 3-1. And Blake Coleman, you know what? He had a shorty. And then he gets a power play goal. Just another kind of individual effort. Just kind of breaks down the far boards away from the camera side and slots home the first, or I think it was the second shot they categorized Dostal as seeing, because obviously Lucas Dostal took over the third period after Gibson got his own defender, ran Blake Coleman into him. And so what was that penalty? It was Radko Gudas who took down Pospisil, actually, right at the end of the second period, and then we saw Lucas Dostal. I didn't look close enough to the bench, and I didn't hear it from the commentators, but did anybody in our chat see if Gibson was on the bench for the remainder of the game, or was he in the locker room? Let me know if you noticed, because that could be a big loss for the team from down in Southern California. Losing, and it's kind of been a tandem this year, but I obviously think Gibson's the better goaltender than the young Lucas Dostal. Dostal obviously known for having 2 goals in the AHL. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about the game. As JG Forever says in chat, the 4 Wolf emojis. I don't know if that's rating Dustin Wolf's game out of 5, because you know what? I'd probably give like 4 Wolves and a Wolf Cub. It's like, let's call it 4.5 on his performance today. Obviously, not the highest octane Ducks squad that has ever graced the NHL. Long gone are the days of Paul Kariya and Teemu Selanne. But Wolf made some big saves when he had to. Wolf, what is his final save total on the night? Stopped 27-26. Even strength goal allowed, so that'll give him a save percentage of .963. And let's look over for the Ducks 2 goaltenders. Gibson allows 2 even strength goals, 1 shorty, exits with an .885, and then Dostal with an .875 for his 20 minutes of work. Also, good to point out that this was Dustin Wolf's 25th win of the year, putting in some pretty elite categories. Passing in the last 10 years, he passes Jordan Binnington for most wins as a rookie. And you got to remember, a lot of those other stats, as they pointed out on the broadcast, also include playoff games. Wolfie for Calder intensifies. And good to see a little bit more balanced time on ice from the men on the back end. Obviously, not having to deal with the firepower of some other teams and kind of holding the lead allows you to play that third pairing, fourth line a little bit more. Braden Bahal had the least time on ice for the minute back, only playing 15:34, even though he was a +1 on the night. And then for the forwards, Lomberg, Klapka, Rooney all in around that 11 to 10 minute marks. Adam Klapka actually playing the least out of the bottom three. And you didn't have any of your forwards really even close to the 20-minute mark, the closest being the captain, Michael Backlund, 18:22. Shots on goal favored the Flames, 34-27. Face-off percentage. Remember how I said you can't win games winning 35% of the face-offs? It happened. The Ducks only win 39, so they were better than the Flames were the other night. But still, the Flames, for once, going above 60% in the face-off dot. Huge for this squad. The Flames go 1 for 3 on the power play and do not allow the Ducks a power play goal, also scoring, as I mentioned, the shorthanded goal. I'm going to also break this down a little bit. The Flames have been very good, not only shorthanded, but also limiting their penalties. It's like they kind of gave their heads a shake after Toronto and said, we just can't give people that many chances, because if you do, that power play is going to, number one, get tired, be on the ice more. You can limit it to under 2. I think in most games, you're probably expected to kill both of them off. As I explained in chat back when Matt and Anand were doing a game earlier in the season, anytime you give up 3 to 4 times, just percentages are going to catch up with you. That unit's going to grow, as I said, tired. And every team in the NHL is probably going to operate around 25% at worst. So if you give up 4 power plays, hey, the math's just there. Probably going to score on one of those opportunities. So good job by the Flames in that regard. A stat the Flames actually lost out on was the hits department. Hard to level a hit when you have the puck. Flames only had 14, Ducks had 28, and this is a stat held by home stats keepers. Also hard to block shots when you don't give up that many. Obviously, don't tell that to Joel Farabee, who took one off the rear end today. I thought that was a kind of a little fun segment where you let Kelly Rudy just talk about how you don't like blocking him off your butt, and I'm sure Kelly knows nothing about that. He had pads on, so he wasn't ever turning his back to the puck, was he? Flames also limit their giveaways. They win in that department 10-11 and lead in takeaways 6-4. The Flames have swept the series so far. Perfect 3-0. They will see each other again in just 6 days down in Anaheim this time. So another important 2 points to look forward to there. So that is the story of what we saw. You know what? I am going to do a little bit here to just say, hey, maybe I was a little harsh on the fourth line, but I think this game shows, yeah, if the Flames can start to win draws, they certainly are going to have a better time moving forward. Obviously, this is, let's say what it is, a bad Ducks team. Even if they weren't technically eliminated, I don't still think they're not technically mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. Nope, they are mathematically eliminated following this win or this loss to the Calgary Flames. So, not a very good Ducks team, but you have to say, one of the bottom 10 teams in the league. And you know what? It's so funny. Because for me growing up, the West was always a division where every team was good, and you didn't really have anyone eliminated till like the very end. If anyone remembers the late 90s, early 2000s, the West was this grind them out, everybody's kind of on par, except for the top 2. You never have a team eliminated till the end. Yeah, every team that's been eliminated from playoff contention so far has been in the West. Ducks, Kraken, Predators, Blackhawks, and Sharks, the only 5 teams mathematically eliminated. Yes, you heard me right. Even though the Boston Bruins, just like the Titanic, are at the bottom of the Atlantic, they can still make the playoffs mathematically. Just saying. Strange times we live in here in the NHL land. So, we're going to head to one of our ad reads here. And we'll be back to talk not necessarily about the game, but a signing that the Flames have brought on to the roster. Looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada? If you have a few spare bucks kicking around, get your head on to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. There you'll find multiple tiers, including featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scene, Discord benefits, merch discounts, opportunities to give us extra feedback, and you can join us for special shows live. And hey, I've heard we're considering doing some Patreon-only showings and watch-alongs for the playoffs. So keep your eyes peeled there. But if you're not able to spare a few dollars, we do have a free tier available so you don't miss out. If you really want to help us, make sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube. Rate us 5 stars if you're listening on a podcatcher. And make sure to share our work on your social media of choice. Once again, for the Patreon, that's patreon.com/thegameovernetwork for all this and more. And I apologize for the hiccup right into your headphones there. Yes, this Flames win was good, a must win, but that's not the only news in Flames land, is since we don't have Game On currently going on, we do have to talk about Aydar Suniev. Suniev, originally located out of Kazan, Russia, signs his deal with the Calgary Flames following the eliminations of UMass out of the NCAA hockey playoffs. And let's not get this twisted. This guy is a scorer. 38 points, as I will make sure we know we're in period number 2. As I said, 38 points in 35 games for UMass. And then also racked up 41 penalty minutes with a plus-minus of 12. And that was in his sophomore season. In his rookie year, played 36 games, 25 points and 25 penalty minutes. And then let's look back to his junior A days. Played over in the Penticton V's system. And in 50 games with the Penticton V's, 45 goals, 45 assists, 90 points, and 44 PIMs. And that's in the regular season in his final year up in Penticton. And then the playoffs, 15 games, 9 goals, 14 assists, 16 PIMs. And you know, I don't have this anywhere written on my screen, but just thinking of those numbers, you know who this kind of reminds me of? I know he's not a center. He's a winger. But those numbers kind of remind me of a young Sam Bennett. Because I know Flames fans, when we had Sam Bennett, he was a prospect, and Sam might have been good for an assist a game, but he also was good for about a stick infraction once every 4 periods. It's with the PIMs at 41 at the UMass level in 35 games, that kind of mass out to a stick infraction every 4 or 5 periods. Maybe that's just the way it is. But also, we have to remember this player did play in North America for most of his life. According to Elite Prospects, did come over, played for the Yale Junior Bulldogs in 15U. And then came up to the Hill Academy for 16 and U18 for heading to Russia to play for CSKA Moscow's U17 and U18 teams. That was in the pandemic. We'll give it a little bit of grace. Also played for St. Andrews College, who I think that's also where Mark Jankowski went, if I'm remembering correctly. Am I remembering that correctly? It's another, or was he out of the other prep schools out east? If anybody can remember better than I do, as I'm trying to do a quick scan here, but I don't recognize. There's a lot of names I don't Alex Power, Owen Power, I believe a sibling went to that school. Anyways, but a guy that's got size in Artur Suniev. And a guy that can put pucks in the back of the net, which are two of the things that Craig Conroy claimed that he wanted in a young player and any of the players that he acquired. Obviously easier said than done, and this is a young man who has gone through that full kind of junior A, NCAA pro system. And you heard Kelly Hrudey talk about how this young man had always been building to be a pro. And now finally we might see him in this last run to the playoffs. And big shout out to Game Over Montreal. Kay stopping by to say hello after Montreal stays in the hunt. You know what? I was thinking this. I was going to pop in during your game. But there's a lot of kind of parallels to the Flames in Montreal in the last kind of half of this season. They're kind of battling for a similar spot and falling down to spite themselves. Of course, Calgary fell in their trap game and Montreal avoided theirs today. But very similar teams, very similar circumstances. We should talk more, Kay. Anyways. But it's good to see some of these high-skilled prospects beginning to trickle their way into this Flames system. Building that pipeline, and even if you hear some other guys bashing Sam Honzek in this market, like, come on, guys. These are young players who have the world heaped upon them, especially as first-rounders. And if Sam Honzek turns out to be a top 6 left winger rather than a bottom 6 center, good. Sure. I will take that. That's still an asset. And I understand these certain other guys in the Calgary sports media ecosystem maybe are supposed to be a little bit more inflammatory about the future of this team, but the development cycle is not over for Sam Honzek. And it's just beginning for Aydar Suniev. Like, Suniev is 20. Sam Honzek, I've got Elite Prospects open. I can check that out for myself. Sam Honzek drafted is also 20. Like, guys. Number one, Sam Honzek's playing his first year pro hockey against men his age and older. He's also coming off an extreme injury. So, hey, maybe he develops in playing against men for the next 1 to 2 years, finds he can play center at the NHL level. That's a win for the Calgary Flames. Too early to tell. But enough about the future. We'll come back to the present after this ad read. If you're enjoying this show so far, you probably want some more, correct? Well, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. That way, you'll know when we go live, especially if you hit that notification bell. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and write a positive review. It really helps with that little algorithm devil on our shoulder that all podcasts and shows need to worry about these days. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your favorite social media. If you're still on X or TikTok or Threads, we are at Game Over NHL. On Instagram and Threads and LinkedIn, we are Game Over Network. And hey, if you're like me and over on Where Skies Are Blue or on Blue Sky, we are at thegameovernetwork.com. As I said, I'm no longer on those other sites, despite friend of the show, Mike Gould, tagging me there. Found out that I had reactivated my account and just was sneaking around. Darn you, Mike, for revealing that I'd gotten my old account back. But I am winding down. I'm not posting anything over there, just so no one claims to be me. You can find me over on Blue Sky at conradkrausert.bluesky.social. You can also find the Game Over at gameovernetwork.com, where you can sign up for our upcoming newsletter. So, I'm not going to go fully into advanced metrics or looking at and breaking down shift charts for these Flames today. But it felt like it was really a time where the Flames knew they were facing an inferior opponent, but didn't play down. Played to a level where they were going to be successful, didn't put themselves in too much of harm's way, and allowed Dustin Wolf to coast through. Because there's been lots of games this season where, even against subpar opponents, Dustin Wolf has had to stand on his head. And don't get me wrong, he had to stop a couple of breakaways, stop a couple odd man rushes, but it wasn't every 3 to 4 minutes like it has been for these Flames over the last stretch. Like, looking back to New York, there were some games where Dan Vladar and Dustin Wolf held this team in it. And I felt throughout this game, the Flames had their control. The one Ducks goal was kind of against the flow, and the Flames took it back over afterwards. It was just the Flames knowing, hey, we need these 2 points. We have to continue to just put our foot through to the floor, not take it off, and recognize that, hey, this last stretch of the games, because the Flames have played 75 games. So their final, like, you play 82 games in the season. Flames have a playoff series to try and get in. Their only difference is they don't get the fortune of playing against Minnesota multiple times. You get them once. That game's going to be massive. And you don't have to win 4. You may have to win all 7. And a game like today is really fuel to get through this next stretch. As I said, the Wild sit at 89 points, 5 points above the Flames. Can the Flames get there? As they said on the broadcast, Fat Lady hasn't sang yet, but she's kind of warming up. The Flames going to need to really batten down the hatches and just going to throw every cliche in the book at you here. But they haven't made the road easy. Getting a point out of Utah would have been massive. And I saw so many memes saying the same thing as I did. That the NHL, how we can't get a 4K camera in the bottom of a post when 4K cameras fit inside your phone. Shocking. But you can't make excuses at this point in time in the schedule. Not that you can make it at any time in being a professional athlete. But the good thing is we do have that one game in hand. So let's say the Flames, let's call that Anaheim game in the future the game in hand. If you play the way you played tonight against Anaheim, 100% you're moving home with 2 points. So then you're only behind 3 on even footing with the head-to-head. So for all the naysayers, team tank, what have you, the Flames are still within range of this, guys. And that's really, really frustrating for a lot of reasons. But it's also really, really hopeful. If the Flames can somehow use the voodoo, wizardry, and bullshit that is Dustin Wolf goaltending to get into the show, hey, stranger things have happened. As we talked about earlier in this season, the Flames have done it before. A goaltender that didn't have the same pedigree, hype, belief that this Flames fan base has in Dustin Wolf led the Flames to a goal that was in away from winning Lord Stanley's hardware. Of course, I reference Mika Kiprasov. Hey, and to look outside of this organization, if the Flames manage to scrap and claw their way in, there's another team that, hey, we can't catch them anymore, but remember Jordan Binnington barely managed to scrape the Blues in. And Gloria played throughout the hockey world as those very same Blues lifted Lord Stanley's chalice. I'm trying not to be hopeful here, folks, as I don't want to get hurt again by this darn team. But anything is possible, and I'm not talking about Flying Rhino Junior High. Deep cut for all of our fans that are around my age range. But it's possible. As I say, all you need is a chip and a chair at the poker table, and the Flames are trying to hold on to as many chips as they can. But I think it is time to head into overtime because I want to keep this one a little short. It is a Thursday night late-ish game. So we'll do one last ad read and then I'll answer some questions from the chat. Thank you so much. As I said, Denim Man, Matt C., Phobos, Christine Merrill, Johnny Gaudreau Forever, and Kay from Game Over Montreal. Thank you so much for tuning in today. What better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? You know what? Hold for 2 minutes. I'm just going to go grab my nephew's shirt. So I bought merch for my family here, folks. I'll be back. Oh, my mic was on the whole time. I thought it wasn't. Lovely. But, you know, and I'm not getting any feedback into my headset now. Good. Think I'm still okay. But Game Over Apparel's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs, including this one whose bag I'm opening. It's my nephew's gift. He won't know. I'll send him the clip. But we have 3 unique designs, whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, whether you want to show your love for goalies, like the Live and Die by the Goalie design, or if you want to wear an established design so it looks a little something like this, you can head on over to if you scan the QR code that is on screen, or, hey, maybe you just need another mug. We got one of those in the shop too, designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Head on over to our store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. And that's a good point there from Johnny Gaudreau Forever. It's someone I didn't talk about today, but really has been the motor for this team. Nazem Kadri. Oh boy, if that man's on a breakaway, you have to be extremely lucky because he has been on point so far. Lifted over the shoulder. I was going to say shoulder of Dostal, but no, it was, what's his name, who always gets thrown around in trade rumors, Ducks goalie, Gibson. There's my brain. And rang a couple off the post today. And oh boy, he has been certainly turning things around for this group. And if he's the guy that's pulling you into the fight, I don't think there's many other players who play the game at as much of an emotional level as he does. Say what you will about his suspensions in Toronto and in Colorado. There are very, very few guys that play with their heart in their sleeve like Nazem does. And if you are a professional athlete and that doesn't drag you into the fight, Like, I don't know what's going on in your head, to be entirely honest. And boy, 3 goals away, as they said or 2 goals away, as I said on the broadcast, and Matt C also brought it up. 2 more goals for a career best year in the regular season. So with 7 games to go, you have to think if the Flames are going to be successful and challenging for that spot, Nazem has a great shot to break that. And Nazem is always going to be a player that receives a lot of undue hate. Just because of those 2 suspensions he faced in Toronto, and that's probably not overly fair to the player. Regardless, he's a champion. Like, he has a ring. He, as I said, pulls guys into the fight, and we've seen for a few years that hasn't always been him, but this year there seems to have been a reevaluation of where he wants to be and what he wants to be for this team, and he's done it. And especially when it's been this Nazem in the kids line over the last, let's call it, 3 weeks since Toronto when he got separated from Jonathan Huberdeau. It's been a different scenario. Okay, I'm not going to say it, that the old white men that love this sport don't like Nazem Kadri because his skin color is not the same as theirs. I'm not going to say that. Okay, you're going to get me in trouble. But yeah, I've loved Nazem Kadri's play. I've loved his rediscovery of that fire, and it's been there on display, whether it's his celebrations or whether it's been his goals at key times. Like, that energy's got to be contagious for the other 23 guys on this roster. Huberdeau has gone cold, got a point in 4 games, hasn't scored in 6. However, I thought he's been fine. I think that he's been playing a really hard-nosed game for Huberdeau. And I think that's just who Hubie is these days. Like, as much as I've really enjoyed watching him turn into this power forward, I think he's playing his role well. Puck hasn't gone in. I don't think that's a condemnation of his play. Hey, Cricket, I'm doing a live stream. I have my reptiles over there. Their food's starting to act up. But boy, oh boy, like, I'm not upset with Huberdeau not scoring the way I was for the past 2 years. Because in the past, when Huberdeau wasn't scoring, he was invisible. But that's not this year. This year, he had a couple tips today that if it's not Gibson in net, it probably ends up in the back of it, because we forget how good John Gibson is as a goaltender because he's playing on one of the worst hockey teams that's been assembled in the decade. But, like, he's still him. He's still an elite goaltender in the NHL. So Huberdeau getting denied a couple times, it's going to happen. And that's all I'll say about number 10 for the Calgary Flames. KQ, I will go into this a little bit because I actually don't think we should have Connor Zary back until the playoffs. And that's probably not a popular sentiment amongst a lot of Flames fans. I'm going to take a sip of water and we'll get into that. I'll mute my mic so you don't have to hear. That's the one downfall of the broadcasting helmet. As much as I and many Flames fans would probably like to see Connor Zary back, This is his second major knee injury in under 3 months. And yes, Conroy and every other source has said it's not as bad as feared. I would rather see the other 23 players on this roster push for the playoffs and get Zary back as that boost when the roster expands for the playoffs. When you don't have to say, hey, Adam Klapka, you've been great, but we're going to send you to the Wranglers. Nah. Let him push us through. Continue to give him the carrot, not the stick. Let him reward his play and let Connor do his rehab. Like, let's get him back as close to 100% as we can. And if we make it in, hey, there's your bonus. We get Connor Zary just like the Oilers are going to get back Evander Kane, it seems like. Even though I think that still isn't that much of an addition for the Oilers roster. But regardless, it's a tricky spot with how you balance things, especially with a young player. And hockey players are driven to play in every single situation. It's a hockey culture thing that I don't think will ever change just because of how glorified playing through injuries is, even though it shouldn't be. That's a hot take, I know. But if we can get Connor as close to 100%, because I don't think we'll see him at 100%, I would rather have Connor Zary play 0 more games in the regular season, come back at 95%, to have him probably only be 70% by the time the Calgary Flames lift the Stanley Cup. If that happens. Anyone have any debates with that? I'll keep checking the chat. Let's look through here for any other questions or comments. Boomer and Red are always way too harsh on Hanzek, but they hated the pick from the start, so they're almost barracking to be right. I agree, Matt. I think it always was a riskier pick. But hey, like, we had a captain for this team who didn't get drafted, who had an Ironman streak nearly unrivaled. We also had a shutdown defenseman who thought his career was over after a car accident and developed to be a heart and soul guy for this team for nearly a decade. Media platooning on a 20-year-old, I think, is irresponsible. You can say, hey, I don't like the pick personally, and I don't think the player is going to work out. As long as you're willing to eat crow about it after. Hey, like I'm eating crow about how I thought this season may have been over after that loss to Utah. The Flames come out tonight and put in a very complete effort to take home the win today. Officially chasing Minnesota from Christine Merrill. I've kind of nailed that point home. Talking a little bit about Nas. And Matt C., I don't know if you're still around. Talking about Suniev. I think I'm happy if the Flames are starting to roll here. Just, hey, you've signed your contract. You're an NHL player. You're taking up a roster spot. But, hey, you're here to learn. You're here to practice. You're here to be a black ace. I don't even want to see him in the lineup unless necessary. Because I don't want to see him on the fourth line. I don't see him as that in the future, so why are we going to ram him into that fourth line role if we take out Lomberg or Klapka? You're here to absorb. You're here to be a sponge. You're here to understand what the culture as a Calgary Flame is. That's where I'm at with Suniev. It's great that we've signed him. So I know there was a little bit of a thought that he may go back to the KHL, even though he's a player that's played in North America his whole life. Shout outs to my Flying Rhino Junior High reference earlier. Naz really wants the playoffs. I think this whole team wants playoffs. I think there's been a lot of buy-in to what this coaching staff is selling. And I think that's both on the ice and off the ice. I think it's not just the players that have bought in. I think fans have bought in. I think that might have been the loudest I've heard the awoos coming through the broadcast mics today, especially after the denial of the 2-on-1 opportunity from Dustin Wolf in the second period. I think people are finally starting to believe in the possibility that this is a playoff team, even with the tough road ahead. So will the Flames be able to reward the faithful with a playoff spot? As I said, 7 games, all that remains to determine if that will be the case. I think I got a couple games off here on Game Over. Yes, I got one off, as Anand will bring you the game on Saturday, the East Indian Heritage Night, which has some of the coolest jerseys the Flames bring out all year, by the way. Well, outside of the Pride jersey that I've got hanging in the closet next to me. So, Anand will bring you Saturday. I will be back on the Monday, where the Flames will take on the Carlos Macklin Celebrini and the rest of the San Jose Sharks. For myself and the rest of the Game Over crew, thank you so much for tuning in. Podcast will be going live probably tomorrow, so I got to get to sleep, folks. It's 11 p.m. Enjoy your Friday TGIF. And hey, if you want to throw something on your second screen on Saturday, or actually, you know what? That game's before the Flames. If you want to support local sports, Cavalry FC open their season. I think the game's on TSN. Let me double check for you folks. Is it on? Yes, it is. Tune in, TSN, 5:30 Eastern. Cavalry FC on TSN2, opening the season against Hamilton's Forge FC, because K is the only good thing to come out of Hamilton. There, I said it. Have a good night, everybody.